The millionaire's fake marriage with a reluctant bride, until one truth breaks him. The bell above the flower shop door rings softly as evening light spills across rows of fresh blooms. At the counter, a woman carefully trims the stem of a white rose, her movements calm, precise, unhurried. Outside, a black luxury car stops. A man steps out. He is dressed in a tailored dark suit, his posture controlled, his expression unreadable. He does not look like someone who belongs in a small neighborhood flower shop. Yet he stands there, watching her through the glass, as if this quiet place is exactly where everything begins. She looks up. Their eyes meet. This is not a romantic meeting. It is not an accident. It is the moment before a choice that will bind them together for reasons neither of them is allowed to say. And whatever happens next will change both of their lives forever. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. The flower shop is small but alive. Buckets of fresh flowers line the walls. The scent of greenery and clean water fills the air. Evelyn stands behind the counter, adjusting a simple arrangement for a customer who has already left. This shop is her world. Not glamorous, not fragile, just honest. When the door opens again, she senses the change immediately. The man who steps inside does not browse. He does not smile. He takes in the space with a single glance, as if memorizing it. His presence feels measured, deliberate. Evelyn straightens. "We close in 10 minutes, she says calmly. "That will be enough," he replies. His voice is steady, controlled. He introduces himself as Alexander Hale. The name means nothing to her, and she's glad for that. He explains his request without wasting words. He needs a wife, a legal one, publicly visible, privately distant, a marriage that will exist on paper and in photographs, but nowhere else. Evelyn listens without interrupting. "You are asking for a contract," she says. "Finally." "Yes," Alexander answers, "with clear boundaries and fair compensation." She looks at him closely now, not impressed, not offended. "Why me?" she asks. Alexander pauses for a fraction of a second, not long enough for most people to notice. "You are independent," he says. "You live quietly. You do not seek attention." Evelyn sets the flowers down. "I am not for sale," she replies. "I am not offering to buy you," Alexander says evenly. "I am offering a solution." Silence settles between them. Evelyn thinks of the pressure already closing in on her life, of a choice she has been trying to avoid, of how limited her options truly are. She does not say yes. Not yet. Later that night, she locks the shop and stands alone among the flowers. She knows what accepting would cost her. She also knows what refusing might cost someone else. Across the city, Alexander stands in a glass office overlooking millions of lights. He has already calculated every outcome except one. What happens if the woman he chose refuses to disappear? When Evelyn finally reaches for the contract the next morning, she does not know that this marriage was never designed to protect her. And in the next part of the story, the line between agreement and consequence will begin to blur in ways neither of them can control. The wedding takes place without celebration. No flowers from her shop. No guests who know her name. No vows spoken from the heart. Evelyn signs the papers in a quiet office with white walls and no windows. The pen feels heavier than it should. Across the table, Alexander Hale watches her with the same controlled expression he wears in board meetings. This marriage is a transaction. They both understand that. When it is done, Alexander stands first. "The arrangements are prepared," he says. "You may keep your shop. Your routine does not need to change." Evelyn looks up. "I was not planning to give it up." He nods once. "Good." The word sounds neutral, but it lingers. They move into the mansion that same evening. The house is vast, silent, and polished to perfection. Every surface reflects control. Evelyn's footsteps echo as she follows Alexander through hallways that feel more like corridors of a corporate building than a home. "There are rules," he says as they stop near the staircase. They are written in. The agreement. No intimacy. No interference. No questions about the purpose of the marriage. You will have your own room, he continues. Staff will address you as Mrs. Hale in public only. Evelyn absorbs the information without reaction. And inside this house, she asks. Alexander hesitates for a fraction of a second. Inside this house, we coexist. That night, Evelyn lies awake in a bed that feels untouched. The ceiling above her is unfamiliar, the silence too clean. She realizes something then. This place does not breathe. The next morning, she leaves early. The staff watches quietly as she walks out the front door wearing a simple coat, not the image of a millionaire's wife. She drives herself to her flower shop as the city wakes around her. The bell rings as she enters. The smell of fresh stems and damp soil greets her like relief. Here, she is not Mrs. Hale. She is Evelyn. She spends the morning arranging bouquets, speaking with regular customers, grounding herself in small conversations and familiar rhythms. Her hand stops shaking. Across the city, Alexander sits at a long conference table, listening to reports he has already read. His phone lights up briefly with a security update. Evelyn has arrived at her shop. Evelyn has left the shop. Evelyn is returning home. He locks the screen without expression. That evening, they eat dinner at opposite ends of a long table. The food is perfect. Neither of them comments on it. You are not required to report your schedule to me, Alexander says calmly. I was not planning to, Evelyn replies. Silence settles again. Days pass. They fall into a routine defined by absence rather than connection. Alexander leaves early. Evelyn returns late. They cross paths in hallways with polite nods and no questions. The house remains immaculate, unchanged, but something feels subtly off. Alexander notices it first when he comes home late one night and finds the lights in the hallway still on. Not bright, just enough to guide him upstairs. He turns them off without thinking, then pauses. No one has ever left the lights on for him before. Evelyn, meanwhile, begins to feel the weight of being watched. Not openly, not intrusively, just enough to unsettle her. Questions from Alexander arrive, wrapped in practicality. Do you often speak with reporters? Has anyone contacted you recently? Do customers ever ask about your marriage? She answers honestly, but the questions leave a quiet unease behind. This marriage is cold, deliberate, controlled. Yet beneath its surface, something is already shifting. Evelyn does not yet understand what role she has truly been chosen to play. And Alexander does not yet admit the truth forming at the edge of his thoughts. That control becomes fragile the moment another life refuses to disappear inside it. In the next part of the story, the line between performance and reality will begin to blur as this fake marriage steps into the public eye. The first public appearance happens on a Thursday evening. Alexander informs Evelyn over dinner, his tone calm and factual. There is a charity gala tonight. My wife is expected to attend. Evelyn sets her fork down slowly. What is expected of me? You will stand beside me, he replies. You will smile when spoken to. You will not explain anything. She studies him for a moment. And if they ask about my life? They will not, Alexander says. If they do, I will answer. The arrangement is clear. An hour later, Evelyn steps into the back seat of the car, wearing a simple black dress. It is elegant but restrained. Nothing about it competes for attention. Alexander sits across from her, already reviewing messages on his phone. The city lights blur past the window. When they arrive, cameras flash immediately. The sudden brightness startles her, but Alexander's hand settles lightly at her lower back. The gesture is controlled, precise. It is not intimate. It is strategic. Inside the ballroom, conversations pause as they enter. Heads turn. Whispers follow. Evelyn feels them all at once, a wave of curiosity and judgment wrapped in polite smiles. This is my wife, Evelyn, Alexander says calmly, introducing her to donors and executives alike. No stories, no words, just fact. Evelyn nods when spoken to. She smiles when expected. She keeps her posture steady and her breathing slow. This is not her world, but she understands how to survive in it. At one point, A woman with sharp eyes and an expensive smile steps closer. "We did not know you were married," she says lightly. Alexander answers before Evelyn can speak. Privacy was intentional. The woman's gaze shifts to Evelyn. "You must have appeared rather suddenly." The question hangs in the air. Evelyn feels the moment stretch. She senses the decision in front of her. "This appear as planned, or exist. We met quietly," she says evenly. "We chose to keep it that way." Alexander turns to look at her. For a fraction of a second, he does not hide his surprise. The woman nods, satisfied, and moves on. The conversation dissolves, but something else takes its place. Awareness. Throughout the evening, Alexander finds himself watching Evelyn more closely. The way she listens without fawning. The way she does not seek attention, yet does not shrink from it either. She holds herself with quiet certainty. This is not part of the calculation. Later, on a balcony overlooking the city, Alexander speaks again. "You handled that well." "I followed the agreement," Evelyn replies. "Yes," he says, "you did." But the words feel insufficient. When the gala ends, the drive home is silent. The car moves through empty streets. The performance is over, but its effects linger. At the mansion, Evelyn removes her coat and places it carefully on a chair. Alexander watches her from across the room. "You did not have to answer for me," he says. "I did not answer for you," she replies calmly. "I answered for myself." The statement lands harder than either of them expects. That night, Evelyn returns to her room, her body tense with exhaustion. The smiles, the lights, the eyes on her. It all feels heavy now. Across the house, Alexander remains awake in his study. He replays the evening not in numbers or outcomes, but in moments. Her voice, her composure, her refusal to disappear. The next morning, Evelyn opens her flower shop as usual. The quiet familiarity steadies her. She trims stems, replaces water, speaks with customers who know nothing about galas or mansions. This is where she breathes. Alexander arrives home late that evening to find a small bouquet placed on the side table near the stairs. Simple, white and green. No card. He stops. He does not touch it. He stands there longer than necessary, aware of something new forming beneath his carefully ordered life. This marriage was meant to exist only in public. But the moment Evelyn chose not to vanish under scrutiny, the balance shifted. And in the next part of the story, the distance between performance and reality will begin to close, not through intention, but through quiet, irreversible change. The change does not announce itself. It arrives quietly without permission. It begins on a night when Alexander comes home later than usual. The house is dark, still untouched. He expected to feel the same as always. Empty, controlled, predictable. Instead, a single lamp is on near the living room window. The light is soft, not bright, just enough to soften the edges of the space. Evelyn sits on the sofa with a book resting unopened in her lap. She does not look up immediately when he enters. She does not ask where he has been. After a moment, she closes the book and stands. "I left some food in the kitchen," she says simply. "If you want it." Then she walks away. Alexander remains where he is, unsettled by how natural the moment feels. No demand, no performance, no expectation. He eats alone. The food is warm, thoughtful. He realizes something uncomfortable. She did not do this because she is his wife. She did it because he was there. The next day, Alexander finds himself leaving the office earlier than planned. He does not examine the reason too closely. Evelyn is in her flower shop when he arrives. The bell rings, and she looks up, surprised but not alarmed. She does not rush to greet him. She returns to trimming a bundle of greenery. "I did not know you were coming," she says. "I did not either," Alexander replies. He stands near the entrance, unsure where to place himself. The shop is modest, practical, alive in a way the mansion is not. Evelyn continues working. "You can sit if you want," she says, gesturing to a small chair near the window. "Or you can leave. Either is fine." Alexander sits. He watches as she works. Her hands move with care, not urgency. She discards wilted petals without hesitation. She does not mourn what cannot be saved. What happens to the flowers that do not last, he asks. They end, Evelyn replies. And then I replace them. The answer is simple, honest, unsentimental. Something in his chest tightens. In the days that follow, moments like this multiply. Not planned, not discussed. They exist in the spaces between obligation. Evelyn leaves lights on in the hallway when she knows Alexander will return late. She does not mention it. He notices. Alexander begins to adjust his schedule without realizing it. Meetings end earlier. Dinners at home become more frequent. They still do not speak about feelings. They do not touch. They do not blur the rules. But the house begins to change. It starts to breathe. One evening, Alexander finds Evelyn asleep on the sofa, a folded blanket resting over her legs. The television plays softly, forgotten. He stands there longer than necessary, watching her chest rise and fall. He does not wake her. Instead, he turns the volume down and walks away quietly. That night, for the first time in years, he sleeps without medication. Evelyn notices the shift as well, though she does not name it. Alexander listens more. He interrupts less. He no longer treats silence as something to conquer. She does not mistake this for love. Healing is not love. It is simply the absence of harm. In her shop, she arranges flowers for a wedding she will not attend. White roses, pale greenery. She works carefully, then pauses. Flowers do not bloom because they are forced, she says later that evening, not looking at Alexander as she speaks. They bloom when the conditions allow it. He hears the sentence. He does not respond, but it follows him long after she leaves the room. Alexander begins to understand something he has never had language for. Control creates outcomes. Presence creates space. And space, once given, cannot be taken back without cost. Neither of them knows it yet, but this quiet healing is dangerous. Because the closer something feels to being real, the more devastating the truth will be when it finally arrives. And in the next part of the story, the first fractures will begin to appear beneath the calm they have both come to rely on. The calm does not break all at once. It thins. Evelyn notices it first in the smallest ways. A man she has never seen before lingers near her flower shop one afternoon. He does not come inside. He pretends to check his phone, then walks away when she looks up. She tells herself it is nothing. The next day, a customer asks casually, "Are reporters bothering you?" Evelyn pauses, scissors hovering over a stem. "Why would they?" The woman shrugs. "Just curious. You are married to someone important." Important. The word settles uncomfortably. At home, Alexander asks questions that sound practical, but land differently now. Did anyone photograph the shop today? Has anyone requested interviews? Do you recognize unfamiliar faces? Nearby, Evelyn answers honestly, but something tightens in her chest. "Why?" she asks one evening. Alexander does not look up from his tablet. Precaution. "For what?" she presses. He meets her gaze briefly. "For attention." The answer is clean. Too clean. Days later, Evelyn arrives at the shop to find the door already unlocked. Nothing is missing. Nothing disturbed. Still, she feels the violation like a breath on the back of her neck. She changes the lock that afternoon. That night, she notices a folder on the side table in the study as she passes by. The door is open, which almost never happens. She does not enter the room, but the folder is labeled with a word that freezes her steps. Her name. She stands there for a moment, heart pounding, then keeps walking. She does not confront Alexander. She does not touch the folder. She waits. At dinner, Alexander speaks about market volatility and board expectations. His tone is even. His posture relaxed. "You seem distracted," he says. "So do you," Evelyn replies. He studies her, searching for something unspoken. Is something wrong? She considers the question carefully. "I do not know," she says, "but it feels like I am being prepared for something." Alexander stills. "For what?" he asks. She shakes her head. "That is what frightens me." The air between them grows heavy. Neither of them pushes further. Later that week, Evelyn overhears a conversation she was not meant to hear. Alexander is on the phone in the hallway, his voice low but urgent. She catches fragments as she passes. She fits the profile. "No, She does not suspect anything. Yes, she's stable. Evelyn stops walking. He does not say her name. He does not need to. She retreats quietly to her room, closing the door with care. Her hands shake as she sits on the edge of the bed. Stable. The word echoes. In the following days, Alexander becomes more attentive. He checks in more often. He offers to have dinner together. He asks about the shop. The timing is wrong. The kindness feels measured. Evelyn begins to notice how often Alexander knows where she has been without asking. How quickly staff respond to changes in her schedule. How questions arrive before events occur. She does not accuse him. She observes. One evening, she places a small arrangement of wildflowers on the kitchen counter. Alexander notices immediately. "You are changing the flowers more often," he says. "Yes," she replies. "They do not last as long." He nods. Nothing does. The words feel rehearsed. That night, Evelyn lies awake listening to the quiet hum of the house. She thinks of her shop, of the locks, of the folder with her name. She thinks of the way Alexander has softened, and how that softness now feels dangerous. Because tenderness that arrives alongside secrecy is not safety. It is strategy. Across the hall, Alexander stands alone in his study, staring at a screen filled with data and projections. He rubs his eyes, exhausted. He tells himself this is temporary, necessary, controlled. He does not tell himself the one truth he is carefully avoiding, that the woman living under his roof is no longer just part of a plan. And the closer she comes to seeing the edges of the truth, the harder it will be to contain what comes next. In the next part of the story, restraint will fail, and the rules that once protected distance will begin to break in ways neither of them can reverse. The rules do not collapse in a single moment. They erode. It happens on a night when the rain does not stop. Thunder rolls across the city, low and distant. Evelyn returns home soaked, her coat heavy with water. She steps inside, breath unsteady, and closes the door behind her. Alexander is in the living room. He looks up immediately. "You should not have been out in this weather," he says. "I run a flower shop," Evelyn replies. Weather does not wait for convenience. She moves past him toward the stairs, but her foot slips slightly on the marble floor. Alexander reaches out without thinking. His hand closes around her wrist. The contact is brief, instinctive, but neither of them lets go right away. Evelyn feels the tension travel up her arm. Alexander realizes what he has done a second too late. He releases her, stepping back. "I am fine," she says quietly. "I know," he answers. They stand there, rain dripping onto the floor between them. The distance feels thinner now. Dangerous. Later that night, the power flickers. The lights dim, then go out entirely. The house settles into darkness. Evelyn pauses at the top of the stairs. "The generator usually takes a minute," she says. Alexander nods. "Stay where you are." They wait in the quiet, illuminated only by the faint glow from the windows. The storm presses in around the house, isolating it from the rest of the world. The generator does not start. Minutes pass. Evelyn exhales slowly. "I will get candles." She returns with a small flame, cupped in her hands. The light softens her features, strips away the composure she usually keeps intact. Alexander watches, unsettled by how exposed the moment feels. They sit across from each other at the dining table, the candle between them. Shadows move across their faces. "You have been distant," Alexander says finally. Evelyn meets his gaze. "So have you." "That is different," he replies. "Is it?" she asks. Silence answers for him. The storm grows louder. Wind rattles the windows. The world outside feels unreal, suspended. "I do not like not knowing," Evelyn says after a moment. "I can live with difficult truths. I cannot live with being managed." Alexander closes his eyes briefly. When he opens them, something has shifted. "I never intended to hurt you," he says. "I believe you," Evelyn replies. "That does not mean you are not." The honesty lands hard. The candle flickers. Alexander reaches forward to steady it. His hand brushes hers. This time, neither of them pulls away. The contact lingers. Not urgent, not rushed. It is not desire that moves them closer. It is recognition. Evelyn stands first. Alexander follows. The space between them disappears without decision or permission. When they kiss, it is quiet, careful, as if both of them understand the weight of what they are breaking. Later, Evelyn rests against his chest, listening to a heartbeat she did not expect to trust. Alexander feels the truth settle into his body with terrifying clarity. He has crossed the line. He knows now, without doubt, that he loves her. And still, he does not speak. Still, he does not stop what is already in motion. In the days that follow, the change is unmistakable. They move around each other with a familiarity that cannot be explained away. Touch becomes accidental, then necessary. Concern replaces caution. Alexander begins to ask fewer questions about Evelyn's movements, yet he knows more than before. His silence grows heavier. Standard security briefings had become habit-long before he ever questioned them. Evelyn senses it. The warmth between them is real, but it is built on something unspoken. "You are not telling me something," she says one evening. Alexander looks at her. He wants to answer. He does not, because the truth he is withholding will cost her more than his silence ever could. And in that moment, though he will not admit it yet, Alexander makes his most unforgivable choice. He chooses to love her while still allowing the lie to exist. In the next part of the story, that choice will demand a price neither of them is prepared to pay. The truth does not arrive dramatically. It slips in quietly, like something that has always been there. Evelyn notices it on a morning that feels almost normal. She is passing by Alexander's study when she sees the door slightly open. That never happens. She slows, telling herself it means nothing. Then she notices the light inside is still on. He had clearly been interrupted before he could lock the drawer. Evelyn stands at the threshold, heart beating faster than she wants to admit. She does not step inside immediately. She waits, listening. The house is silent. When she enters, she does not touch anything at first. The room smells faintly of coffee and paper. Alexander's desk is neat, as always, except for one file left out in the open. Her name is printed on the tab, not handwritten, typed. Evelyn does not sit down. She remains standing as she opens it. Inside are reports, background checks, timelines, notes written in a careful, professional hand. Her habits, her finances, her relationships, her flower shop. She turns page after page, her breathing shallow but steady. This is not curiosity. This is preparation. When Alexander enters the room, he stops short. For a moment, neither of them speaks. Evelyn looks up at him, the file still open in her hands. Her expression is calm, terrifyingly so. "You chose me," she says quietly. Alexander takes a step forward. "Evelyn, let me explain." She lifts a hand, stopping him. "You did not choose me because you needed a wife," she continues. "You chose me because I was suitable." Her fingers curl against the edge of the desk, steadying herself before her voice disappears completely. Alexander swallows. He does not deny it. The situation was complicated, he says carefully. There were risks. To whom? Evelyn asks. He does not answer. She nods slowly, understanding settling into place. Like something final. "I was never your wife," she says. "I was your contingency." The word lands between them. Evelyn closes the file gently, as if it might break if she does not. She places it back on the desk with deliberate care. "You knew," she says. "You knew what would happen when the truth came out." "Yes," Alexander admits. "And you let it continue," she adds. Even after, his silence confirms it. Evelyn's eyes glisten, but no tears fall. "You did not fall in love by accident," she says. "You allowed yourself to love me while still using me." Alexander steps closer. "I never meant to destroy you." "That is what makes it worse," she replies. She turns away from the desk, from the room, from him. She moves through the house slowly, as if memorizing it one last time. Alexander follows, desperate but restrained. At the front door, Evelyn stops. "You taught me something," she says without turning back. Control does not protect anyone. It only decides who gets hurt first. She opens the door. "Do not follow me," she adds. "If you ever respected me at all, let me leave with what I still have." Alexander remains frozen as the door closes behind her. Later that day, the fallout begins. Rumors surface. Headlines twist the narrative. Evelyn's name appears everywhere, stripped of context and dignity. Alexander watches it unfold from his office, the screen reflecting in his eyes. This is the moment he finally understands what the truth has cost her, and what it will now demand from him. In the next part of the story, the world will ask Alexander Hale to choose between preserving his empire and telling the truth that will burn it down. For the first time in his life, control will no longer be enough. The backlash comes fast. By the next morning, Evelyn's name is everywhere. Articles appear with carefully chosen words and careless conclusions. Comment sections fill with judgment from people who have never seen her face, never stood inside her flower shop, never understood the quiet life she built for herself. She does not read them. She does not need to. Customers stop coming. A delivery is canceled without explanation. A supplier asks if she would prefer to pause orders until things settle. Evelyn unlocks her shop anyway. She waters the flowers. She trims stems. She works through the silence, refusing to disappear simply because others have decided who she is. Across the city, Alexander sits in a boardroom filled with voices speaking over one another. This will pass if we manage the narrative, one advisor insists. We issue a statement distancing the company, another adds. We let her take the fall quietly. Alexander listens without interrupting. For the first time, the board moves without him. The statement is already being prepared in his name. He realizes then that the truth will be shaped with or without his consent. That afternoon, Alexander requests a press conference. The room falls silent. This is not necessary. The chairman says carefully, "You are not personally implicated." Alexander stands. "I am." When the cameras turn on, the lights are blinding. The room is packed. Questions fly before he can speak. He raises a hand. "My marriage was a legal arrangement," he begins. "But the responsibility for what followed is entirely mine." Gasps ripple through the room. "I chose Evelyn because I believed she would be protected by proximity to my power," he continues. "Instead, I placed her in harm's way." Reporters lean forward. "I withheld the truth," Alexander says. "Not because I was unaware of the consequences, but because I believed I could control them." He pauses. "I was wrong." The statement is clear, complete, uncomfortable. He does not defend himself. He does not soften the facts. He does not ask for forgiveness. When the conference ends, the cost becomes immediate. Sponsors withdraw. Stock values drop. Board members resign. The empire he built begins to fracture under the weight of truth. That evening, Alexander returns to an empty house. The lights are off. The silence is heavier than before. He sits alone at the long dining table and does nothing to fill the space. Across town, Evelyn closes her shop as the sun sets. She notices something different. A note slipped under the door. No name, no apology, just a single sentence printed clearly. "I told the truth." She stands there for a long time, holding the paper without reaction. Days pass. The headlines shift. The public narrative changes slowly, reluctantly. Some apologize. Many do not. Evelyn does not return Alexander's calls. He does not try to explain. Instead, he begins to dismantle the systems he once trusted blindly. Settlements are made. Statements corrected. Protections put in place. He does not use money to erase what happened. He uses truth to prevent it from happening again. One evening, Alexander walks past Evelyn's flower shop and stops. The lights are on inside. The space looks the same as it always has. Alive. Real. He does not enter. He stands on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets, unsure of his place in this world without control. Inside, Evelyn arranges flowers near the window. She sees him there. She does not wave. She does not turn away. She finishes her work at her own pace. Alexander waits. This is not a gesture of romance. It is a recognition of boundaries. In losing his empire, Alexander has gained clarity. In refusing to be rescued, Evelyn has preserved herself. The damage has been done. The truth has been spoken. Now, only one question remains. When power is stripped away and choice is finally returned, Can anything real grow in the space left behind? In the final part of the story, healing will not arrive as a reward. It will arrive as a possibility. Time does not heal everything, but it changes the shape of pain. Weeks pass. The city moves on, as it always does. New headlines replace old ones. Names fade from conversation. The noise recedes. Evelyn remains. Her flower shop opens every morning. The bell rings. The scent of clean water and green stems fills the space. She works with steady hands, rebuilding rhythm before rebuilding trust. Customers return slowly. Some offer quiet apologies. Others say nothing at all. Evelyn does not ask for explanations. She does not need them. One afternoon, a young couple enters the shop, nervous and hopeful. They ask for flowers for a wedding that will be small and imperfect. Evelyn listens, then selects blooms that will not last long, but will be honest while they do. As she wraps the bouquet, she feels something unfamiliar. Peace. Across the city, Alexander lives differently now. There are no assistants managing his time. No meetings designed to protect his image. His days are quieter, smaller, real in ways he never learned to value before. He does not try to rebuild what he lost. He spends his time undoing what he can. One evening, Alexander walks to Evelyn's shop as the sun lowers behind the buildings. The light is soft, forgiving, but not sentimental. He stops outside, as he has done before. This time, he does not wait in shadow. Evelyn sees him through the window. She finishes arranging a vase before turning toward the door. She opens it. They stand facing each other, separated by a threshold neither of them rushes to cross. "I will not stay long," Alexander says. Evelyn nods. "That is your choice." "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness," he continues. "I know that is not something I am owed." She studies him carefully, not with anger, not with longing, with clarity. "What are you here for?" she asks. "To say that I understand something now," Alexander replies. "Love without freedom is not love, and truth given too late is still harm." Evelyn absorbs the words without reaction. He reaches into his pocket and places something on the counter. Not money, not documents, a single key. "I no longer have control over anything that belongs to you," he says. "I wanted you to know that." Evelyn does not touch the key. She considers him for a long moment, then speaks. "I do not need proof that you changed," she says. "I need time to decide whether change matters." Alexander nods. He accepts the boundary without negotiation. "That is fair," he says. He turns to leave. "Alexander," Evelyn says. He stops. "This is not a promise," she continues. "But you can come by sometimes. As yourself, not as someone who decides outcomes." A pause. "Only if you can accept that I may still say no." "I can," he answers quietly. He steps back onto the sidewalk. This time, he does not look over his shoulder. Evelyn watches him go, aware that time may change her answer or confirm it forever. Inside the shop, Evelyn locks the door at closing time and rests her hands on the counter. The key remains where it is. Outside, the street lights flicker on. Life continues. Days later, Alexander returns. He stands in line like everyone else. He asks for flowers for no occasion at all. Evelyn helps him. They talk about nothing important. Weather, work, ordinary things. There is no contract between them now. No agreement. Only choice. As Alexander leaves, Evelyn watches him go, not with certainty, but with openness. Flowers do not bloom because they are promised a future. They bloom when the conditions are finally right. And for the first time, whatever grows next will not be decided by power, fear, or control. It will be chosen by both of them, together, or not at all.